It's referred to as a manifestation in soil and stone of the gods' hope for a unified world. Welcome to another DragonLance Saga episode. My name is Adam, and today we're going to talk about Ansalon Cataclysm. I'd like to take a moment and thank the members of this channel and invite you to consider becoming a member by visiting the link in the description below. You can even pick up DragonLance gaming materials using my affiliate link. I am referencing the Tales of the Lands box set for this information. If I leave anything out or misspeak, please leave a comment below. The unified continent of Ansalon was seen as a monument to the races that the gods put on Krynn. They intended unity and peace, but were clearly short-sighted when it came to divine and mortal ambition. The sheer diversity of the civilizations were surprisingly comfortable in their mistrust, separate borders, and isolationism. In fact, during the 3 millennia prior to the cataclysm, there were 11 nations that reigned near simultaneously across the continent. Let's take a deeper look at each of them. Sancrist is an isle off the western coast of Ergoth. It was populated by gnomes chasing after the Greystone around 3050 pre-cataclysm. They discovered a massive dormant volcano and decided to excavate it, constructing a vast complex for their glorious citadel. The original name is far too complex for any non-gnome to understand, let alone recite, so everyone just referred to it as Mount Nevermind. Ergoth stretched its borders to include Sancrist around 2500 PC, but it mattered little to the gnome civilization, as the Ergothians gave them a wide berth, most likely due to their inventions. 40 years after the fall of Ergoth, the gnomes reclaimed their independence officially. At its height, the Ergoth Empire sprawled from the turbidous ocean in the west to Silvanesti in the east. This was accomplished by war, occupation, and law. Its beginning was much more humble, though just as brutal. For around 2600 PC, Akal Ergoth led a military campaign against the barbarian tribes, unifying them all through force and extortion. Its capital was Daltagoth, and by 2200 PC, Ergoth was the largest civilization on Ansalon. This could not last, as in any civilization there are disenfranchised groups. When Vinus Solamnius learned the truth of the empire and its effects on the border states, he led a revolution against his emperor in 1801 PC. This split the empire from all her lands east of Palanthas and Zaxaroth. Hylo, named both by its founding and geographical features, began in 2600 PC with a crash landing of an occupied floating citadel. Marooned in the Sentinel Mountains, the Kender were fascinated with the landscape and decided to stay. By 2500 PC, the citadel was encased in forest growth, so the Kender created the city of Hylo. The young lingered as long as they were able until their wanderlust struck them, and they would return once satiated. In 2450 PC, Ergoth claimed the province for its own, and even imposed stiff taxes, but gave up trying to collect them after 50 years. Once Ergoth fell, which granted liberty to the Kender, they hardly noticed and went about their business as usual. The elven nation of Qualinesti came out of the Kinslayer Wars. After 40 years of dissatisfaction, the Western Elves declared their independence. After 27 more years of feuding, Kithcanon crafted the Sword Sheath Scroll, granting the West their freedom from their Eastern Elvish oppressors. In 2050 PC, the Great March began, and for the next 20 years the Western Elves slowly migrated to their new homeland between Thorbardin and Ergoth. The dwarves and Ergothians were surprisingly hospitable, and they came together in unity in the construction of Pax Tharkaz. The Qualinesti built their capital of Qualinesti with massive, elegant spires as an homage to the natural beauty and function for protection. The dwarven nations in Ansalon started in earnest with Calthax in 3100 PC. By 2800 PC, Calthax was permeated with decline and death, so the next generation set out through the Calcist Mountains and founded Thoradin. Within 75 years, their home of Calthax would become lost. Thoradin would discover the dragon stones in its depths and unwittingly unleash this second dragon war with their expulsion from their home. This prompted the dwarves to seal their gates for 500 years. In 2150 PC, hill dwarves would migrate 400 miles through the Kharolis Mountains and delve a new home of Thorbardin. This would become the largest kingdom the dwarves had known, even withstanding the destruction of the cataclysm. Kharolis was populated more by the native walrus men and ice bears than any humanoid race. That is precisely what made Tarsus so powerful. It was the sole port city in the west which housed all the functionaries necessary for a strong and prosperous society. It grew to be the chief port of trade for exotic pelts and cold-water fish. Tarsus would build massive city walls with taller guard towers to protect her residents from pirates and barbarians. Tarsus was truly a jewel of civilization in this forbidding tundra landscape. Solamnia came from the civil war in Ergoth led by Vinus Solamnus in 1791 PC. Its people were unified in their cherished and hard-won liberty. The people made use of the heavily fortified cities and villages raised by their late emperor for protection. Solamnia was guided by morality, their sometimes faulty aspiration of walking in the honorable path of its founder. Palanthus was the jewel of the nation, which was already legendary as a port city with the great library, tower of high sorcery, temple, and university. But its capital was Vingard Keep. This former Ergothian outpost has both daunting walls and geographic positioning which only aid the military regimes for defense. Silvanesti was named after Silvanos, who founded the nation in 3550 PC. They fought dragons for their homeland and built it to honor the natural life surrounding them. They shaped trees and rock into exquisite forms for habitation and celebration. Their foundation was built on living in harmony with nature, which led to it becoming the oldest surviving city on Ansalon. War would come to the elves in 2192 PC, which lasted 100 years between humans and elves. This caused a fracture in its people, which led to the split and foundation of their cousin nation of Qualinesti. This led to isolationism and extreme protection of her borders, going so far as to grow a massive hedge to keep outsiders away. In 3951 PC, after the Greystone broke away from its captor, one of many races was created. Balifor gathers his other transformed brethren and begins wandering the land. Balifor's close friend Silvanos granted him a deed to the land east of Silvanesti, and there the Kender founded the nation of Balifor to honor Balifor in 2750 PC. 150 years later, a clan of Kender would discover the first flying citadel, which would lead to the founding of Hylo. Again, Balifor would be the true home of all Kender, but they would be struck by their wanderlust, traveling all over the continent and beyond, before most would feel the call of their home and return. For a millennium, Istar was simply a barbarian land, cut off from the rest of Ansalon by desert and wastelands. But by the time Solamnia and Ergoth faced off, the tribal nations had risen from the farming clans and, in time, grew to cities. By 1480 PC, the port of Istar became a channeling force for all trade on Ansalon. By 800 PC, the coinage of Istar was recognized across the continent, and the Istar Empire continued to grow. After the Third Dragon War, peace reigned, and in 280 PC, Istar installed its first king priest. This led to socio-political strife with her border nations, and in 118 PC, the proclamation of manifest virtue led to the slow downfall of Ansalon and its people with the cataclysm, showing that a balance between good and evil is absolutely necessary for any life to flourish. And that is all I have to say about the past lands of Krynn. I hope you enjoyed the information. Do you have a favorite empire? Perhaps a favorite location before the cataclysm? If you could live in pre-cataclysm Ansalon, when would you live there, and where would it be? Leave a comment below. I'd like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. This all goes to help other DragonLance fans learn about this channel and its content. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with DragonLance Saga, and until next time, remember,
I go where I choose in this world, and I choose to go with you, Tanis Half-Elven.